So AzzTek, you guys are in the respiratory space?
Yeah, so to some extent, but we're really looking at a broad variety of diseases. So we utilize exhaled metabolites that could be associated with a respiratory disease, but it could also be associated with other diseases that manifest in other parts of the body, but ultimately come out through the lung through a blood-air barrier exchange.
Okay, and tell me a little more about the product and how the whole platform works.
Yeah, so our product is very simple. It's effectively a glorified straw. It's a single-use breath test. Inside of that straw is a technology that allows us to identify very specific molecules that are directly tied to the molecular biology of the disease of interest. That technology can then be read by a smartphone or a tablet or an inventory reader, and that information can be extracted almost instantaneously. It takes about 5 minutes to get the data.
So what's the use case?
So the use case right now that we're most excited about is the potential to lower the barrier for people to learn about their risk for lung cancer. One of the biggest challenges in the United States healthcare system right now is that we've already identified an at-risk patient population for lung cancer. We've even got a reimbursement process where it's basically free for that first step, but nobody's really doing it. And so what we're trying to do is to give them information before they even go into an invasive procedure like a CT scan that helps them understand their risk profile better, motivates them, and also enriches that patient population.
So it's a single-use sensor-connected straw, basically.
Yes.
How much does it cost to make?
It varies on how many metabolites we want to look at any given point in time. But the cost of goods is somewhere around $10 to $20. We see ourselves coming into the marketplace with what's a good margin for us, obviously, to continue to grow, but what is a fraction of the cost of administering CT scans with high false positive rates, for example.
Right, yeah, there's a lot of fat to trim there, I guess.
Yeah.
So what stage are you and how far along are you in as on this mission?
Certainly. So we're at the point where we've really dialed in the chemical sensing technology. We have a prototype that we've spent a good amount of time on, both on the hardware as well as the data analytics side. We're starting to validate it in a clinical validation study right now with one of the Boston teaching hospitals. That's a reasonably sized study, about 75 patients. We're a quarter of the way through it. Our data looks superb. And we're really excited to really grow it into a larger study come this summer.
And has some of that come out of the MassChallenge Accelerator? How's that been valuable?
Yeah, so it's the MassChallenge Accelerator to date. We've already had great interactions with individuals, both on the clinical validation side, potential health systems that we can scale it into, but perhaps more exciting from a standpoint of access via the patient are distribution channels, places where organizations that can really help us get it out into the marketplace once we're ready for that. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, you talked a little bit about your business model, but tell me again, who are your customers here?
Yeah, so really where we see the first customers are actually hospital systems or health systems, care providers that see a patient population they could help, but for some reason that patient population isn't getting into their system. So the actual customer themselves is the hospital system.
And then what will that user experience be like? I mean, does the straw show up in the mail or?
Yeah, actually the simplest format of it would be at the annual physical. When the physician is talking to the patient's probably a smoker, they're probably of a certain age, and the physician actually takes the breath test out of a single-use package, one inhalation, one exhalation, and the data is available right then and there.
Wow, so right there in the room, they can see if there's any indications.
Yes, and obviously there's the representation to the patient and to the physician in that moment, but that data is also captured and pushed directly into an EHR. And going back to the MassChallenge, we've already interacted with other startups that are really perfecting and solidifying that EHR interface, where that's been really valuable for us as well.
What's the range of kind of what you can learn from your sensor?
Yeah, so we actually have a method of designing the sensor to capture really any target analyte that we want. We've focused on a subset of analytes that we know are associated with lung cancer, But that being said, we have a library of receptors that are available for a much broader basis and breadth. And just to give you some examples there, we've taken a very close look at tuberculosis, a very close look at malaria, and a very close look at pneumonia breath signatures as well.
Oh, interesting. So there could be some use cases in the developing world for those.
Absolutely. And that's one of our core drivers for continuing to push the cost of goods down as low as possible.
Great. Well, it looks like we got to wrap up, but thanks so much, Joe.
Yeah, great to meet you. Thank you.
Good to meet you.